You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 8th of June 2024.
I was just saying about the results for this. So like in the lead up to this election, all you could hear about was the Euros.
Yeah.
And now in the aftermath, all you can hear about is the locals. And the locals are also impossible to track. I keep hearing like completely contradictory statements. And then you just kind of have to be like, shrug, I guess I'm just going to find out when I find out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, there was a funny one. They were like, look, there was nobody to vote for in my area, so I just went in. I couldn't resist. And then they spelled out. So there was so many candidates on their list that in each of the boxes, they managed to spell out communists going the whole way down. And so that was like Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, Aim to, all communists apparently.
Yeah. Who'd you vote for?
Who did I vote for? Well, wouldn't you like to? Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, I first of all, I'll always do PVP number one, baby, all the way.
Someone told me today that PVP, sometimes it's embarrassing to find out something, you know, like, but they're against property tax.
Yeah, I know that.
I didn't know that. But then how do you fund?
Well, they're saying additional. They were not against additional property tax. They're only against it as like on an individual property, which most parties would be. Because a lot of people believe that, like, you know.
Wait, what do you mean?
There's working class people who own their own home who then be hit with a tax, which could end up, you know, crippling them, affecting them financially. Whereas the real people you should be going after is the people who own a number of properties.
Right.
And at that point, if you own more than one property that's not your home, then you should be taxed on that, you know?
Yeah. But I don't know either way, but isn't the idea that like property tax funds stuff in the area? Like that's how county councils make their money.
Yeah, I don't know. That's my only response to it is that it's a lot of people think that it's an unfair tax on working class people who own their own home.
Yeah. It's funny. So who'd you vote for? PVP.
PVP.
Who's your local PVP?
Then there was Brian Murphy, was it? Who's our local PVP? Brian McCarthy in Cork Northwest. And then Saoirse Mackin, who's Soc Dem, first transgender candidate in Ireland, I believe.
Oh.
And then the rest was just a mixture of shinners. And then, yeah, we were like, okay, that was it. And then for the Euros, I got, I kind of just went, I think number one was PVP. Number two was Mick Wallace. Oh, no, actually, number two was one of the independent candidates that we read out last week. Not a racist one. Do you remember the guy who was like human rights camp?
You said he was a common sense. You said he was pro-common sense.
Graham DeBarra. Do you remember him from last week?
Graham Dwyer.
He is... No. Graham DeBarra. No, what he says is... the ongoing, so basically he's Graham DeBarra is an independent candidate from Cork. He's the director of Help Not Harm, an organisation that advocates for a health-based, non-punitive approach to drug policy and legislation. What do you deem the most important issue for the European Union now, and what would you like to see happen in that area?
More drugs. Yeah? Otherwise, we might have a job.
The ongoing global conflict in the world is the most important issue facing the planet, as without peace, all social justice and climate issues are irrelevant. So he's just entirely pacifist, anti-war candidate, and that was his entire platform.
Must be nice.
And then Mick Wallace eventually.
Mick Wallace.
And then that was it. And I just want to say in the locals now, I was like, Rosslahive, famous for going into libraries, ripping up books, screaming at people, harassing the mayor, in possession of a knife, all this. He is currently battling Brian McCarthy for potentially the last, and a Sinn Féin guy for the last seat. So they're like at the bottom of the poll, and I was just like, this sucks. Like, we were like, if Rosslahive wins, I might move because I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I feel unclean. I feel upset that is actually, anyway.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Brian McCarthy won and Rosslahive lost.
But
yeah. I voted Claire Daly.
Good. Interesting.
Yeah. For Euros.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Bridget something.
Bridget Purcell.
No. It's not running for Euros.
No, she's in the locals.
Yeah, well, that's why I said Euros.
Okay, well then who's in the Euros?
What's her name? It's in PvP. Bridget.
Oh, Bridge Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, when Claire Daly number 1, that's interesting.
Yeah. I like their policy on the Islamic State.
Yeah.
On setting up the caliphate in Brutus's
Yeah, you're really fixated on that one.
So that's good. And then
Yeah.
and then I voted for the PvP guy in the local area, even though he's like 15. So
Kean, no? Is that him? Prenderville? No? Is that a different
no,
person?
it's let me get his name up.
God, who the fuck is it? Connor Reddy.
What already?
Yeah. Ready on that.
Yeah, ready or not, here I fuck. What am I looking up here? PvP.
Connor Reddy. I'm getting some distortion. Is your phone right next to the mic?
Yes, because I'm looking something up.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you. Some of the listeners. Do you know what? Fuck the listeners. Okay.
Yeah. Listeners are a
actually-
bunch of racist old freaks, you know?
I get to a point I was like, I listen to podcasts with terrible audio quality, and that's part of the charm of it. So we just have to embrace these things.
Yeah.
If you want polished audio quality, why don't you go listen to fucking This American Life and hear him do his lip smacks into the microphone, huh?
Yeah, some of these.
And his vocal fries.
I know we've said this a load of times, but I hate how hard it is to find candidates.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
So I voted. It's terrible. I can't remember. Cian McAngus.
Cian McAngus. Who the fuck is that?
PvP.
Okay, cool.
The 15-year-old.
Good job. Good job at name recognition.
Cali Nicorali for Sinn Féin.
Who the hell is that? Okay, I don't know. I guess I just don't know people in the local constituency that you're in.
No,
and
there's
that's
no
okay.
way.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And then I don't know how to feel about this. I gave a vote to the local Green councillor.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't, but fair. Whatever.
My reasoning was that, like, the Greens are better at a local level. Like, they're not so, like, vicious and bloodthirsty. They're sort of like local stuff makes sense for, like you don't want your national, like, lead figure to be like, we just need more bike lanes.
Yeah.
But maybe in your, like, local area, having a few more bike lanes.
Yeah.
Good,
well,
you know?
The issue is that Green councillors are like bully XLs. They grow up. They become...
I feel like it'll be a while before this guy gets in. Like, I think Green's going to do badly in the next election. So, maybe he'll never grow up. And then there's someone else. Some other crazy guy.
Here's another thing that's been interesting about just the analysis of the votes. They're like, oh, Sinn Féin was expected to do really well, and they actually only did basically the same as they did before. And it's like, I don't think Sinn Féin were expected to do really well. People kept saying that they might actually struggle, but actually they didn't struggle. They made modest gains that weren't, like spectacular. And then the other thing about it is they keep using it as a barometer. It's like, oh, I guess that the wind has come out with the Sinn Féin sails, and you're just like, this is where they were in 2019. Remember when they did this disastrous local in Euros, and then we came around to them making huge gains in the general. It's like, I don't think there's actually really a correlation between any of these two elections, do you know?
Yeah. There were some mad ones around my area, but also I can't believe we didn't talk about the guy. I sent you the messages about him. Let me get his name up again. The guy, fella from Martain.
I don't know him.
He's like the ex-British soldier.
Oh yeah, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Yes. Oh, that's annoying me now.
Oh, here we are. His name was Rowan Croft.
Yes.
And he was an ex-British soldier, and he goes by the nickname Gran Torino.
No. Well, we watched the coverage this morning of all the stuff coming in, and it was kind of, the pundits had already decided what the outcome was, okay? So regardless of the results, they were going to frame it in some way. So every single question was always like, we have Dahi Doolan here from Sinn Féin. Not a great day for Sinn Féin, Dahi, no? Is it? Well, I don't know. I mean, well, Pascal Donoghue says this, and it's like, well, Pascal Donoghue would say that, you know? And there's all this stuff where it's like, you know, the appetite clearly isn't there. It's all this stuff, and they weren't clear. They ran too many candidates. It's the exact opposite problem of what they had before. But it's my knowledge, the reason they didn't run enough candidates in the general is because they ran too many in the locals, and then they didn't do so well. So they were like,
did they run too many, or did they just
maybe
not
they just
get
didn't
elected?
do well? Yeah.
You see Paulie Doyle's tweet?
No.
Might be an old one, but he let me get it up. Let me just get it up on the phone.
Yeah. Get it up, baby, get it up. No. Jesus, this one, I don't think I've I'll probably cut this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Today I was like, I don't know if I've ever wanted to record this podcast less. I want to have a conversation with my friend. But like when it came to talking about the current state of things, I was just like, first of all, it makes me depressed and I don't want to do it. And secondly, there's also not that much to report because nothing has changed, you know?
Yeah. So, Paulie Doyle, I work in a town centre and I've been taking votes away from Irish patriots so that only candidates picked by NGOs get elected. Everyone knows I'm doing it, but they don't say anything because they're afraid of being called racist. And then this guy replies, he's like tagging someone he knows. He goes, can you please find out more about this and who this is? Then I'll report it to the director of elections.
Good. Go on and do, yeah.
So they read Paulie's thing and were like, he's admitted.
There was like, today as well, they had like, we'll go out and we'll interview people. And the interviews were just really so much more reflective of what's going on. Because you're like, okay, what's the local and Euros going to be like? And you're just like, I actually don't know. I think everybody is sort of like checked out, depressed, and they don't think anything's going to change. And I don't think that they're quite as motivated as people have been painting them out to be. Do you know?
Yeah.
And also everybody is entirely confused and nobody knows what the fuck is going on. And there's far too many candidates. So like they were interviewing this lady and so they were in Dundalk or something. And they go, who are you voting for? And they're like, Sinn Féin. Who are you voting for? Sinn Féin. Who are you voting for? And he's like, well, Fianna. And he's like, well, what's your main issue? It's like, well, I'm a young person and housing is very important to me. So obviously I'm voting for Fianna Fáil. You're like, all right. And then and then they went over to this sub-Saharan African lady, okay? Did you say, oh my God? Is that racist to say? All I'm saying is that, like, she was a black lady from Africa, okay? And she was saying, who are you voting for?
Africa is not a country. First of all,
Whatever.
it's not a
All
country.
right, I just don't want to take a guess on one of the
It's not even.
countries.
It's not even a place.
Okay. Huh? Probably Nigeria. Oh, who's being racist now? Oh, every black person that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's how they get you.
A lot of them are.
That's how they fucking get you.
A lot of them are.
I'm not getting caught out by being anti-woke, okay? Because I'm fucking as woke as shit, okay? Anyway, the point is, they're interviewing her and like, who are you voting for? And then she goes, Sinn Féin, and then number 2 would be Fine Gael. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I feel like everybody is so confused, and I cannot understand what is happening, do you know? Like when we were going through them last week as well.
What would her priority be? Like what?
Fucking...
What do those two things have in common? Like, I'm genuinely asking.
Not a clue. I mean, maybe just somebody came up and was nice to her. That's another thing as well. You can't count out just somebody coming over and going, hey, how are you doing? Can I have your vote? Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, but I feel like those people, if someone's, when that happens, people then normally don't, and you ask them who they vote for, they normally don't go, oh, Fine Gael. They go, oh, this guy, because he's just nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Normally they identify with the person over the party.
Yeah.
Whereas this woman was just like, yeah, Sinn Féin, Fine Gael. Like, what could it be? Could it just be...
This is it. I don't entirely follow. And then there was another one in Cork, and they're going around, they're interviewing, and they were like, what's the biggest issue for you in this election? And then, of course, everybody said housing, and then Gaza second, okay? This is in relation to the Euros, by the way. And then this guy goes, this is what they asked this guy, and you're on the edge of your seat. He just goes, well, I think it's like, we have like migrants coming in from Ukraine, from Palestine. It's Palestine. And he's like, and there's like, and they were like, and what do you want this to be done? It's like, we need a compassionate way of helping these people. Like, such a strange, like I couldn't, it just kind of boggled my mind. I cannot figure out what is going on, where people are at. Everybody seems to be incredible. Here's another thing, by the way. So like,
what?
Like,
I told you about the guy I met at the Black Lives Matter rally in Tralee.
This is in 2021.
And he came over. Yeah, and he was like, what are they on about? What are they doing? It's like, oh, it's Black Lives Matter. And he's like, and he's like, oh yeah, they do have a hard time of it.
Yeah.
They are, they do get a lot of flack, sort of thing.
I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember my first time, like, kind of being aware of like elections. Like, I would always see like, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and kind of be passing back and forth between them. But then in like 2016 or 2015, remember, I don't know which election it was, I expected like, oh, they're going to get like fucking decimated, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And then like, they just keep doing pretty much as they're always doing. And then the same with Fianna Fáil. It's just like, well, how could you forgive them for the recession? It's like, they did, you know?
Easily.
And, I mean, it took 10 years, but yes, eventually we are able to forgive them for the recession, you know? And you're just, they're kind of, that's always been a confusing thing about Irish politics, is to just, you know, look at what everybody that I talk to and see what they're saying and then anticipate sort of the exact opposite has just been a good rule of thumb, you know? Like, I was like, how does this happen? How does everybody spend like the past 5 years complaining about Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and then they keep like, well, Fine Gael did pretty well in the locals here. It's like, how the fuck? But the added variable this time around has been the rise of like the far right, or people like Niall Boylan or something like that, where you're just like, this is just even more nonsensical than it was. Because like, what they would have is these transfers where apparently this happened. I don't know. They were kind of, you know, jumping the gun a bit, because I think it was just a handful of boxes had been opened at this stage. But RTE were pointing out that like people might be voting for like Daithí Doolan, and they might be voting for Lynn Boylan, but then they mightn't be transferring to either of them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
The transfers wouldn't be going to the next another Sinn Féin candidate. You'd just be like, what the fuck is this? What the hell is that? You know,
Yeah.
what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
it made no sense. It could be like, oh, I'm voting Niall Boylan number 1, Lynn Boylan number 2, and then I'm going to vote like Derek Bly, and then I'm going to vote. You know, like it's like it would just be crazy. And then I'm going to spoil my ballot by writing communists underneath all of them. Do you know?
I think part of it is that our local elections, like two people can be in the same party, but
Yeah.
particularly with Sinn Féin, they could be, one could be, oh no, that was Euros you're talking about there. But say with say with locals, it's like, they could be in the same party, but be completely different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Particularly with Sinn Féin, it could be like, it's like one guy who's hairs, and then one guy who's like, still trying to blow up Nelson's pillar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just have been, this one I've really been, I don't get it at all. I don't get what's happening. And I'm just like waiting for results to come in because everything is just speculation until you start seeing some of the people who've won. And then there's just nothing. Yeah. Which obviously there's probably not going to be anything until either tomorrow or even Monday.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the toilet.
All right, fine.
I have two things.
I have something as well. I have 2 things as well. Actually, I got 3 things.
So there's this group called Art Not Genocide Alliance. And it was at the Venice Biennale. Try to basically, they call it the Genocide Pavilion. And it's basically the Israeli Pavilion.
Okay.
It's where Israel have their exhibitions.
Yeah.
And they managed to get it closed. The Israeli one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At the Venice Architecture Biennale. That was not the biggest win, but it's a good win. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to see just stuff. Like, Israel need all this cultural stuff, particularly European cultural stuff. So they're launder their image. So it's nice to see people pushing back, you know? Particularly artists, because artists, a lot of talk sometimes, you know?
I know, yeah.
But, and then the other thing was, you see, you know the way 3 people were arrested a few months ago, including Emer Walsh
Yeah.
at Shannon.
Yeah.
There were, I think that they were at Ennis Courthouse, and a group of people turned out to support them, including Margaret Darcy, who was like, you know her.
Well, I know her because when I grew up in Galway, she was at absolutely everything.
Yeah,
my mum
she
brought
would
me
be.
to some sort of political event, then she'd be there. And also recently enough with the kind of faux, the neutrality panels.
Yeah.
Where she was very vocal. She's very old now, so
She's
wheeled up on stage and just to disrupt the whole event.
She was born in 1934.
Wow.
And she's still, like, more actively involved in this sort of thing than anyone else.
Yeah.
She was, what was it? Something to do with, I think, didn't she attack the planes at Shannon
I think so, yeah.
with Mick Wallace?
I think so. Could be wrong, but I think so.
Let me look that up. I read her book. It was interesting. She had such a mad life, you know?
Mm. She has a book.
Yeah. Well, it was like
What's it
her
called?
biography, you know? Like it was like collections from her diaries. Yeah, like she does such mad, funny things that are all really admirable. Like I'm just looking at her Wikipedia page, In 2011, Darcy refused to stand for a minute's silence to honour a PSNI officer killed by dissident Republicans at an AS Donna meeting.
Yeah.
As in, she's part of the AS Donna, you know that? It's like if you're a big artist, they basically give you the dough for the rest of your life.
Amazing.
Yeah. Along with Niall Farrell. Who's Niall Farrell?
Sounds familiar.
She was arrested. For some reason, I always thought it was Mick Wallace. Along with Niall Farrell, she was arrested in October 2012 for scaling the perimeter fence of Shannon Airport in protest at the use of the airport for stopover for a U.S. military flight. In 2012, she would have been 78.
Would she actually been 78? I
Yeah.
don't know how to do maths that quickly. I do not know how to do.
Well, she's 90 now.
Jesus. Just looking up a picture of Niall Farrell.
Who is he?
Don't know. Where's his Wikipedia page? Hey! He was, he's actually, in 2014, he lived like exactly where I lived when I was a kid. Like the very small area. He lived in Mary, or in Moore.
Wow.
I feel like I should know him. My mum should have told me about him.
Mick Wallace and Claire Daly arrested Shannon Airport. For refusing to take off their burqas.
Yeah. They were. So that's what happened to Shannon. They were insisting they take off their burqas.
Huh?
Yeah. I was trying to look up one of the things about like they're with the Iran, per what you were saying last week.
Never do that. Never fact check.
Dude, I'll be fact checking any fucking thing that I try and find it now, but like basically they appeared somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Where is this? I can't remember. It was I think it was in the Irish Times or like some sort of thing like that. The Independent Irish Times Examiner, one of those. And, but they were trying to comment on how like nefarious where Claire Daly and Mick
I never
Wallace
said
were.
it was nefarious. I just said it was mad.
No, you said it about something else. This was different to what you were saying. They were going and observing an election. Okay.
Oh, in Venezuela, wasn't it?
No, it was in Iran or something.
All
All right, look at this. I better find this article because it was just Iran, Claire Daly.
Yeah, don't be
And
fact checking me.
Iran.
Fact check yourself.
Where is this?
Wow. The Phantom article. That magically proves your point.
Oh, here we go. 2021. Mick Wallace and Claire Daly.
Age. That's my target age on Tinder.com.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
Low's 20.
Oh, no, I got it.
Old is 21. No burkers allowed.
That's all written down there. You can check it out for yourself. So this is from the Irish Examiner. Mick Wallace and Claire Daly defend visit to Iraqi militia HQ. So it's actually nothing to do with Iran.
Whoa, okay. All the same to you.
Yeah.
It's all fucking sub-Sahara to you.
Hey, it's so hard to be woke these days.
Some African woman on TV. Yeah. Her name was the Imam.
Yeah. All right. Irish MEPs Mick Wallace and Claire Daly have defended a recent visit to an Iraqi militia headquarters after they were dubbed an, quote, embarrassment to Ireland. I love when they do this, where they write like articles like this, and it's like, I'm just being impartial. I'm just saying what people are saying,
Yeah, who
it's
are you
like,
quoting? Me.
Yeah. Look, that's for me. But my favorite bit, just because of since October 7th, we've become very familiar with this framing and terminology.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, the way they used this is to try and be like, look what they did, all right? So the footage released on March 30th shows Mr. Wallace and Miss Daly viewing a picture gallery wall of, quote, martyrs before they speak about their trip. You know, I just thought it was funny because like now that's like if you're following all this is like my cousin was martyred, my mother was martyred.
Yeah,
like, all
yeah.
It's just like the way that you say somebody died, and they're like martyrs. Yeah, we all know what that means, don't we? You know. Yeah, so actually that brings that we could talk about.
But that was the thing
know.
I was talking about.
Oh, was it? But you said Iran. This is Iraq.
Oh, maybe it was something else. No, something else. No. Must be a different thing. There must be two things.
That's funny. Sorry, I'm just reading further on in the article. After they were dubbed an embarrassment to Ireland, and that makes it sound like some, you know. But what they say is further on down the article, Fianna Fáil Senator Malcolm Byrne claimed the two MEPs are an embarrassment to Ireland. It's like, all right, so an opposition team, a TD who's in opposition to them. Those two MEPs visit a Shiite militant group that has lured gay people to their deaths if their support for Lukashenko in Belarus and Hezbollah in Lebanon was not bad enough. They are an embarrassment to Ireland.
What was the militia group called?
Religious groups as well as the Hased al-Shabi group as part of their recent trip.
Okay.
Say it again, sorry.
الحشد الشعبي.
All right.
No, you say it.
No. They were she goes, wait, is this her talking? But they're, we were in their camps, we met their representatives, and these are people who answered the call of their religious leaders to fight terrorism. Many of them sacrificed with their lives, but they're actually part of the Iraqi army now. So people in the West and the EU say these are a terrorist organization. They're not a terrorist organization. They're organizations which have been through their human rights training under the Geneva Convention in terms of how to deal with civilians in conflict. For example, they work closely with the Iraqi army. They've been dealing with the COVID fallout. For example, they've been rebuilding schools and areas. This isn't the type of stuff that a terrorist organization does.
I do think it's funny how, it's like criticizing Claire Daly for meeting this group.
Yeah.
And then, like I did, and then there's no sense of like Gael members shouldn't be meeting with like
the Saudis.
The Saudis. You know what I mean? Like the difference is just of scale. Like it's just like the Saudis are bigger, so they're more legitimate. Whereas Al-Shabaab, is it?
Yeah, but it's also like money and then also other components that just kind of racism, basically. I don't know what, No,
it's not racism.
Well, okay, right. Kind of.
It can't be right. They're both.
Yeah.
Arabs. Yeah, African.
Yeah. It's a great episode. I don't know how much. It's a minefield of all these, like all the beeps that you're hearing. It sounds like Morse code the entire episode.
All these peoples and countries.
We
haven't said anything bad.
But like the other thing about it is when you think about like Hamas, for example, like these people talk to Hamas and it's like, yeah, they're like the governing body. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's like the I think the Hassan Brigade is the like militant faction of Hamas.
The Hassan Brigade.
Yeah, I think.
I love his stream.
What? What did you call them? Hassan Brigade. Hassam.
Did you say
Hassam.
Hassan? No, it's Qassam.
Shut the fuck up. I hate that shit. Oh, it's Qassam. It's just like, just fuck off, all right? Shut up. It's like, do you call it Khan Yunus or do you call it Han Yunus? It's like, just knock it off, all right? This is ridiculous.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
that's Africans for you.
The point is, she is actually African, so.
Yeah, I know. She's literally African.
And that's why you have to say sub-Saharan, all right? Because that's where all of the black people are, all right?
Okay, here's my
North
question
of that,
for you.
north of that, it's a bunch of palos. Okay.
So
Alright?
you have sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Where is that? Without looking it up, what countries are in sub-Saharan Africa?
Nigeria.
I'll look this up.
yeah, you fucker. I do. Just even saying one, just call you out. I'm not going to name all the countries in Africa. I don't fucking know.
I'm just fact checking it. Because apparently we do that now.
Oh, whatever. Look, the the point that I'm getting at is that like all these guys go, yeah, Hamas are evil, Hamas are bad. We can't talk to them, can't talk to Hamas. And then, of course, obviously, the Israelis. I don't know if you've seen the latest thing that the Israelis
This
have
is
done.
bullshit.
What?
Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
That's like 3/4
most
of Africa.
I know. It is.
So sub-Saharan Africa, it says, includes regions of, it includes Central Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa.
Yeah.
That's all there is. And then there's like 3 countries up at the top.
That's
That's like,
find that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
there's like Libya and others, many more.
Mm-hmm.
Angola, maybe?
Who knows? Okay.
What's the French one?
New Guinea?
Algeria.
Algeria. Yeah, well,
What?
Algeria. Whatever. It's okay. I've been called out.
Well,
Hey.
you were right.
Which? I'm
What?
right.
Yeah, about sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
You could have just named any old country and probably was in sub-Saharan Africa.
I think I'm just being called out for mentioning sub-Saharan Africa at all. And then the more that I'm called out, the less certain I am about it. And then I start to get panic and get nervous and be like, am I being a racist by saying this? But I was like, I'm not going like, oh, they're from Nigeria. Because I don't know that they are from Nigeria. All I'm saying it's a safe bet to say sub-Saharan Africa. Because most...
Yeah, it's funny because it sounds more specific than Nigeria. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somehow. It's like, oh, he must know what he's talking about. He specified. But
Okay. The latest thing that's happened in Israel is not in Israel, sorry, in Palestine, is that the Israelis
whoa.
have
Anyways.
they've gone in, okay, and now these are early reports, so I'm not sure whether there'll be like something to dispute these from a while, but it seems like this might be the case. The thing that we know for certain is that 80 Palestinians have died to rescue something like 10 Israelis, okay? They went into like a refugee camp and just shot it to bits and managed to come out with, some of the hostages. But
Right.
the way that they've done this is they sent aid trucks in, but they were actually military convoy disguised as aid trucks. And here's the kicker as well. It seems that they might have done it in partnership with the US using the pier that they created for aid.
Really?
Yes. Anyway, I just want to bring
It's
that up.
mad.
Okay, like when people go like, we can talk to Netanyahu, but Hamas, evil terrorists.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
they were voted as well. Like, I mean, then like, yeah, but there hasn't been an election there, so like maybe they go for somebody else, and then you're just like, well, maybe they would. We don't know because they can't carry out fucking elections.
Yeah.
And even if they did, and then it returned the same result, it's like just deal with those people. And like when you hear the leaders of Hamas,
Yeah.
they're saying like, here are the things that we want, whereas to talk to like mainstream media, like you wouldn't think that Hamas actually has demands except for kill every Jew you see.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, like you never hear from like leaders of Hamas or Palestinian leaders
No.
in the news. It's always just like some random person that they found. They don't care enough, or they don't want to legitimize Hamas enough to like give them a mouth.
Yeah. Like it's all
Like,
they
it's
talk
obviously-
about, and they don't know anything about it. Like a big part of it. Like imagine knowing like, I can't believe I started this without having an analogy in mind. But like imagine knowing coins and only thinking they had one side on them. That's a bad one. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. It's just like, how can you spend so much time thinking and talking about this and then not know anybody from Hamas or what their demands are or what's going on? Do you know? It's insane to me.
And it really affects people's perception. Because, like, when you're on the receiving end of that, you're sort of like, even if you hate Israel, your read on it then becomes like, you know, Palestinians are disorganized and anarchic.
Yeah.
So maybe if there was someone to lead them, there would be a peace process. But unfortunately, there's not. So you can't have, you know, it's
exactly.
It sort of creates a bit more of a buffer for the people carrying out the genocide, you know?
Yeah.
Because they can just go, oh, we tried that, but there's no one we can talk to.
But it's like that fucking West Wing clip we watched a while back where, like, they go, oh, they don't have watches in Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's this idea of, like, no, they don't have governance. They just, the Palestinian mind rejects the idea of having a functioning government or democracy. And then, correction from earlier, 4 hostages were rescued and 200 Palestinians were killed.
Jesus.
Gaza Health Ministry now puts the death toll at 274 with 700 wounded. Furthermore, Hamas says that 3 other Israeli hostages were also killed in the operation.
And there are all these pictures of grinning, like, hostages back with their family, doing the peace sign. And by the way, they look like, I'm not going to... I'm just saying, they're going to look a fucking lot better than any of the Palestinian prisoners that are going to be released back, you know?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's fucking insane. It's sick.
Yeah. It's... I feel like the government have really quietened since they recognise the Palestinian statehood. They really stopped even talking about it, I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they were sort of like, oh, that's the most we can do now.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's... I think also it's effective, to be honest. I think, like, these guys are like, please just, like, I want my property price to go any direction but down, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll complain that my kids are living at home longer, but I don't really care because I got multiple assets. I'm invested in this project, okay?
Yeah.
I just need to not feel like a complete idiot, like amoral psychopath when I vote for you. And then they go, what about if we recognize Palestine as a state? Good enough for me? Yeah, that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still 2-state solution. Still,
I think as well it comes down to, like, it's sort of like, remember during the 2 referendums we had, and the one about changing the language to get rid of gender from libraries or something. What was it?
Yeah.
Get gender.
The gendered language out of the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Constitution.
And I know a few people who voted for that. Even though, like, loads of groups advocated against it, they were just like, it's embarrassing on the world stage. It's embarrassing in front of other countries that we have this, like, what's the word?
Archaic language.
Archaic language. So, like, it doesn't matter what the content of the language is. It's just embarrassing that it doesn't sound right. And I think the recognizing Palestinian statehood is a similar thing. It's like, so we have this, like, identity that's built around, like, siding with a little guy, basically.
Yeah.
And we sort of we're happy with just recognizing Palestinian statehood because it's sort of like, it's a way of preserving that identity that we, we always side with the little guy. We're not like America. We're not afraid to speak out. But
there's
no material crossed. Like, all we're doing is speaking out.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything.
No.
So I think that's partly why people are so happy with just recognizing statehood. It's like, it's just, it's as simple as just being all talk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I was just reminded that here's another reason that it's bullshit, although like it's meaningful in some ways, but it's like, we weren't the first to do it, and the way things are going probably won't be the last to do it. But then the main thing is that like basically we're going to recognize it as a state just on the cusp of it not existing anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, Starmer is panicking over in the UK and realizing that maybe he did. I don't know if you've seen this, by the way. They went after a bunch of people, like including obviously Diane Abbott, but then Faiza Shaheen. And then they've also put this absolute like disgusting troll of a man called Luke Akehurst into a safe seat in Durham, who was on Labour Friends of Israel and also the NEC.
Yeah, like what's the story with him? He used to be a Tory or something?
No, he's just extremely right-wing Labour guy and
Okay.
was very, supported the Iraq War, big supporter of Tony Blair, just like made it his mission to like destroy Corbynism. By the way, Labour Friends of Israel, massive Zionist, not even Jewish.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, you'd have to go to America to find somebody who's invested in Zionism without being a Jew. Okay.
Yeah.
But he just an absolute fucking disgusting racist creep of a man. Also, by the way, he got caught in a hot mic, like not in a hot mic. It was like a clip of him talking about how anti-Zionist Jews weren't even really Jews; they were like just pretending, basically.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have abandoned very much of their Jewish identity. They don't go to shul at all. It's become a purely cultural thing around the occasional bowl of chicken soup or whatever.
It's like, but that's not anti-Semitism. It's not going to be investigated. Whereas Faiza Shaheen, who apparently was like, she was in like Ian Duncan Smith was a Tory who kind of, anyway, she went up against him in the last election and then kind of squeaked out a victory against him as a left-wing candidate. And she liked a Jon Stewart video where he was talking about how everybody's just so gosh darn angry about Palestine and Israel. And she liked that tweet, and that was deemed anti-Semitic.
Really?
And so she liked a bunch of Green Party tweets like 12 years ago. And since then, they've become like a prescribed group or something like that. So anyway, they basically deselected her and said they're investigating her for anti-Semitism. And there's a group called like the NEC, which is like the National Executive Committee, who kind of is responsible for selecting the candidates. So they're like, yeah, Faiza Shaheen, you're out. And then, wouldn't you believe it, Luke Akehurst, who sits on the NEC, has also just was gifted a safe seat in Durham, which isn't her constituency. I'm just pointing out this thing where it's like a bunch of these people who are sitting on committees are now deciding whether the people who are also sitting on the committees with them will get seats. And it's an unelected body within Labour. Anyway, they kind of overdid it a bit, because when they went after like Faiza Shaheen, people were just like, what the fuck is this? This is like some, like, you're going after, like, you're trying to talk about not having a racism problem in your party, and yet you keep consistently going after like women of color and trying to destroy them. Do you know?
Yeah.
Why did I bring that up at all? Oh, yeah. So they're getting anxious about like, one of the other things is apparently she talked about her own experiences of Islamophobia, and they were saying that was like basically bad for the party, that the fact that she was talking about her Islamophobia, or that she was kind of making accusations or something like that. Whereas a lot of people who were, remained in the Labour Party under Corbyn, who constantly gave out about anti-Semitism, it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's real. Islamophobia is not real, because they are trying to kill us, the Islams,
Yeah.
In that very meeting, because one of the tweets they said was undermining their ability to win elections, was me talking about my experiences of racism and Islamophobia within the Labour Party, which was used against me to block me from standing. So you can't tell me on the one hand that, quite rightly, people that experience anti-Semitism were allowed to talk about their experiences of anti-Semitism and it was taken seriously, but then tell me that me speaking about Islamophobia and speaking publicly about it means I'm undermining the party's ability to win elections and therefore I have to go.
But anyway, they have this idea. Let me just read out the headline because it is so funny. Okay, here we go. So this is from Sky News one day ago. Labour expected to pledge Palestinian state recognition in manifesto. In a move seen as an attempt by Labour to reassure the left of the party, Keir Starmer is set to reveal plans to recognise a Palestinian state. So,
but it was all for nothing. His whole life was for nothing.
But it's also really like, basically, if you read the terms in it, he basically has like the most Weasley words possible to just back out of it. But the thing that's also funny is him putting pledge in there. It's almost like the right wing ghouls who are kind of funding his campaign. It's like, yeah, pledge, like those other pledges I had. Remember, wink. You know, like I cannot believe you would use the word pledge. Oh, I pledge to do that. You know, like,
yeah. I mean, I know he dropped loads of pledges, but like when Irish politicians pledged to recognise Palestine, it took 20 years.
Yeah.
Like it means nothing.
No, it means nothing. And now it's happened, and it also means nothing. Yeah. I mean, it's good that it happened, but it still means nothing, you know? Like, I just don't know. Like, again, it's like the least you could fucking do. Because if you're talking about like a 2-state solution and you don't recognise one of the states, then like, what's the point here? What are you even doing? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been like just drinking my horrible poison, watching all the stuff over in the UK, just like, you know, taking years off your life, feeling your brain get hot, or, you know, looking at all the stuff that's happening in the UK. And then here as well, I mean, the stuff like I was saying about Ross the Hive potentially even coming in with a possibility that he could get a fucking seat here.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It's this feeling of like everything is getting worse and worse and worse, and I think it can't get any more worse. It's just like, it just gets worse.
Yeah.
But here's what are we at? What time are we at with this? I know there's a big chunk in the middle. Jesus Christ, this one's going to be a tough one. Like, I got two things, all right?
I'm
so
going
we'll
to
see how they go.
I
Okay.
need to re-energize.
All right.
We take Pete's car, we drive over to Mum's, we go in, we take care of Philip.
I'm so sorry, Philip.
Then we grab Mum, we go over to Liz's place, pole up, have a cup of tea, and wait for all this to blow over.
Anyway, we're back at it. We're back at it. What? I'm back at it.
It's borderline.
What? What do you want?
It's borderline bestiality.
So cool.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, you're saying that being a furry is borderline bestiality.
A hot take.
We've lost half of our listeners now. Thank you very much.
Here's a vibe for the base podcast. I was walking in town. There's a lot of Americans around, and there were these two women behind me, and they were talking about how Irish people hate Americans and are also rude to them, right? And then one of them said, "Yeah, until they find out you're from New York." And then their eyes just light up.
That's so funny.
I was like, that is so true. I never thought about that. And she literally said it like that. She was like, and then her eyes just light up and they love it. I was like, why is that true?
New York City.
Part of it is because we see it on TV and it's exciting. I was thinking as well, the impression we get of New Yorkers is that they're like funny, that they have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
yeah, they're walking here.
they're certain, yeah. Whereas in the rest of the country, we sort of think they have no sense of humor.
Yeah.
In Irish people, we love to laugh.
Yeah. We love to laugh. And we love something called the crack. And I'm not talking about the crack that you might find on a certain New York street corner.
Yeah.
Because of fucking de Blasio, who I presume is still mayor.
That's it. Like in Ireland, when you call someone a crack dealer, it's a bit different to whatever goes on in Harlem.
Why Harlem?
Sorry. I'm in Africa.
I'm looking at some of the. Oh yeah, the other thing we forgot to talk about with Israel is Thomas Hand is in the news again. They're like third item in RTE. They're like Thomas Hand says that he's ashamed to be Irish because they recognize Palestine as a state. And I was like, good news for you, buddy. You're not Irish.
Who's Thomas Hand?
You know the guy whose daughter was kidnapped?
That
You
guy,
hear
yeah.
him talk, and he's fucking British.
That's horrible.
And he's like 100 years old, and he's British. He's 100 years old, and yet he's like I bet you he's like the same age as us, and he looks 100.
Yeah,
He's so fucking withered from all of the evil and hate in his heart.
See the guy who
And,
said, "I'd rather my daughter die than."
Yes, that's exactly who it was.
Yeah, that guy is so evil. It's like,
Yeah.
you know the way we were talking about your man from Suits, Linty. What was his name?
What the fuck was his name? We literally just looked this up.
And we said like, he looks like an anti-Semitic poster.
Yeah.
It's like, your man Thomas Hand is like, he's what the Nazis like said Jews were like.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he's probably the worst ambassador of Zionism, and
Yeah.
that's certainly saying something. Because like a lot of these ambassadors, like for the people for Zionism, they're like, you know, they've tried to make him look young and attractive, like Hen Madzig or something like that. This guy is just withered. He's like, I'm the Irish one.
Yeah.
And I think that and I speak with an English accent, and I think that my daughter should have died. Okay. And it's yet somehow the state is not taking her away from him. But like, I always find it weird when they play this, like Israel, like it's terrible what's happening to my country of Israel. Then my, everything's been, and then he goes, I'm ashamed to be Irish. It was like, which one is it, man?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Take it. Like, you know what I mean? You can be proud of your heritage, but they're just like, they are so actively citizens of two different
Yeah.
countries, but you know which one that they actually like care about. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't see himself as Irish. He sees himself as Irish for the purposes of being the Irish Israeli.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Anyway, it's always a slippery. You feel a bit uncomfortable saying that type of stuff where it's like, people come over here and they get a passport and it's like, oh, I'm like, I'm fucking. Sorry, I was about to go like, I'm Irish, but I'm also sub-Saharan African. You know what I mean? But you don't want to like those people. That's real. That's fine. That's everything. But it's just like, this is your project. You've staked your everything on this.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a country that didn't exist 60, 70 years ago. Okay, still doesn't exist, but like they claim it exists. you
Yeah.
know? And it's like, I think, yeah.
It would be like if during the Troubles, like someone like Enoch Powell was like, I'm ashamed to be Irish. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's
just
exactly
like-
what it'd be like.
It's just like, that is not representative of reality. You know?
No, you're not anything. You are not one of us. Just shut
Yeah.
the fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay? You cannot be one of us. You're not allowed,
Yeah.
You can't have it. All right?
You
There's
can
not
have
many good
the crack.
There's not many good things about being Irish, but the fact that it's almost a, bipartisan issue to be in support of Palestine. Okay?
Yeah.
It's
True.
like
Through grit
You
and
are-
teeth in some parts.
But yeah, some of the Fine Gaelers are like, oh, I really hate that I have to do this, but it's like, well, you do, and you're Irish because you say it, even though you don't like it. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But this guy, you don't get to have it. Right?
Yeah. I have a question for Thomas Hand.
Yeah,
Lions or berries?
that's the real test about whether you're Irish. He'd be like, "What is that?" And we'd be like, shaking our
Man, oh
heads.
my God. Don't
Yeah.
even pretend you're Irish.
This is also really bad, but the Cherry Comedy recently did a gig in Vicar Street for Palestine.
Yeah.
And then Foyle Arms and Hog were there, and I was like, get them out of there. You're not
Yeah.
allowed. You leave. You get out that door, okay? You don't get to be like, yeah, we got to raise money for these kids. It's like, get the fuck out. Shut your fucking mouth, okay?
Yeah. I
And
wonder
I
what
hate the
skit they
police
did.
people. Yeah, I wonder what skit. Probably the
Is it-
same skit, yeah.
Well, they probably did one that was like, when you're trying to pass through like Palestinian customs. Not understand. Like, when you land in Gaza airport from wherever you like in the world, you know?
Yeah.
What's this?
Sorry, no, I was going to play the video, but we were riffing, so I decided to.
The video,
riff
it's
go.
called like woman gets fucked by,
Jesus.
by a guy or something.
Okay, that's a
On a website, pornhub.com.
Have you heard of it? Have you heard, is there really such a site?
Have you seen this one?
But this is one thing. So they were talking during the week. This guy has come up and they interviewed him in The Independent. Like they gave him a full fucking article in The Independent. And then they had him on Virgin Media tonight to talk about the plight of the multiple Spar shops that he owns in Limerick. Okay. So listen to this though.
That's the first hour. In the second half on patreon.com/CelticLigers, a Limerick Spar owner is given multiple write-ups to moan about shoplifting, which he insists is costing him $250,000 a year. Then, unmissable. One of the strangest bits of audio the Ligers have ever reacted to. New Millennial Girlo podcast Can I Just Ask interview Barry Cowen about the difference between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and he could not be more furious about it.